You want to make something really fun happen? This, I guarantee you, is the most fun thing that can happen if you help make it happen. Like I said, I need help growing this. Hold heavy. Respect your father and your mother. Literally, kabed es avicha ve'es imecha. Es is a way of accentuating. It's a word that means the, but not really. It's just accentuating. So honor your father and your mother. Ka'asher tzivcha Yehovah Elohecha, like Yehovah your God has commanded you. Lema'an yarichun yirmecha, so that your days shall be lengthened. Ulema'an yitavlach, and so that it be good for you. Al ha'adama, upon the earth, upon the land. Asher Yehovah Elohecha nosein lach, that Yehovah your God is giving to you. So what does this mean in our day? It's hard to know. We are living in a society so different from the one they're talking about. This is supposed to be part of a whole, everybody truly living in a certain way. What does father and mother even mean today? Literally, the people from whose sperm and egg you come? The people who raised you? What if that's different than the people whose sperm and egg you come? Does that apply father and mother? What about the fact that children are not raised at all by their father and mother? They are raised by their peer group, who are essentially raised by the media. Those who are out to make money. And they are essentially raised by the school system. And whatever it happens to be. We all know it's terrible. Nobody denies that it's terrible, right? They are not raised really by what is going on. So, that's a whole separate question that we have to figure out. Perhaps we'll have more discussions on this if people are interested. If I'm able to survive, if I get the subscribers and the sponsors. But I assume those will have to be only for subscribers, because there do have to be videos only for subscribers. I hate that. What can you do? If I get enough sponsors giving large amounts of money, then I guess I can make all videos open for everybody and quit the whole subscribership thing. But that doesn't seem likely, and besides, it shouldn't be sponsorship. This should be something that is essentially a business. You want to be part of something fun? You want to make something really fun happen? This, I guarantee you, is the most fun thing that can happen if you help make it happen. Like I said, I need help growing this. The sponsor de cette série, I mentioned in the preamble, is somebody who's very interested in the Ten Commandments and interested in the whole world knowing and caring about the Ten Commandments. He had, as I mentioned, only one stipulation, and that is that the videos be approximately 5 minutes. My primary concern, as you can see is well-founded, is that I not go too much over the 5 minutes. But in this case, I had finished this one about honor thy father and thy mother already at this point, before Red Shirt. And I was a little bit concerned that it was too short, but the problem is that the questions about this are bigger than the answers I can give. Of all the 10 Commandments, this is the one that most clearly and definitively applies to everybody, and which is the most difficult in anybody who has living parents, and possibly even not living parents. Honor their memory, perhaps. But everyone has parents, or at some point has had parents, and this applies to everyone, and yet, because it deals very plainly with human beings who are by nature faulty, it's complicated. And the questions were bigger than the answers. So I was just going to leave it at that. But, interestingly, I just had an interaction with my father and with my nephew, my brother's son, which adds to my ability to speak a little bit more to this. With regards to my father was wondering how it's possible that people so very much appreciate what I'm doing here. You can see in the comments, right? Look for one of my videos that has some comments, and you'll see that people from every walk of life, really from every walk of life, from every background, are very, very pleased about this. And we have 750 subscribers. And yet, as you'll also see, or at least as of when I speak and I'm making this video, how very, very few people YouTube actually shows my video to. And seemingly, they're primarily showing, not seemingly, I know this from looking at the stats, most of the people who see my video are not even the people who are subscribing. Most of the people who see my video are random people. YouTube goes out of its way, not that there's a dude deciding it, of course, but the whole way the system works, it's going out of its way to not show my videos. Really is. Really, really is. To a few random people. So if you subscribe over here on YouTube, then you'll still just see one of my videos literally about once a month. If that much. That's really the truth. The only way to see them here on YouTube is after you click subscribe, which you can, if you've already subscribed, you can do it still. After you click subscribe, there's a bell over there. Do you want notifications? And you'd have to click all. Right now it's set at personalized, which means they're not going to show it to you for the most part. You have to click the all, then it will show you when new videos come up. In addition, of course, as I've been saying kindly and for your benefit and for all of us, and because this is just, it'll be magnificently fun, please actually subscribe with the $36 on the Substack thing. But my dad was wondering, how is it possible that people don't know? Why don't they just say word of mouth, right? Like I was a tour guide in Jerusalem for 8 years. And the way that I became a tour guide in Jerusalem was that I went over, I was 19 or 18 years old, and I went over to some random people and said, hey, I'll give you a tour for $4. And if you don't want to pay afterwards, you don't have to pay afterwards. Otherwise, for 4 hours, I'll give you a tour, $20 if you want to pay. And I did that twice. I did it twice in one day, 2 4-hour tours in one day. And then afterwards, for the next 7 years, I didn't do a single bit of advertising or going over to random people or anything. It was all word of mouth. We live in a different world today. We live in a different world. Except, I need that. I need that. The only way that this will happen. And we have big goals. We have very big goals. Please see the short video that's called If God, and then in parentheses, Tao or kind reality, another word for God, kind reality, wants it, how far can we go? We have very, very big plans. And there are so many people from all walks of life who get what I'm saying, who hear my heart, who relate to my soul, and would like to be a part of it, but you should know it's not going to happen unless you really go out of your way to make it happen. So honoring my father is mentioning that, even though I really don't like the self-promotion stuff at all. Yeah, very uncomfortable with it, but that's my honor to him. And vis-a-vis my nephew, so my brother's son, my brother has 3 kids. I have 2 brothers, but this particular brother has got 3 kids, and this is one of his kids. His name is Benjamin, awesome little guy, and he lives in a different state. Well, I don't see them very often, unfortunately, but he's incredibly intelligent. He's been writing me lately by email, and it's difficult to know how to write back. Presumably, hopefully, I don't know really. Hopefully, I really don't know because things are so messed up in the world these days. But nonetheless, presumably and hopefully, his parents actually his emails go through his parents or whatever, So there's some level of that. I don't know how it works with regards to people taking, on the internet, kids. Not that kids are the only people who need to be protected. Everyone needs to be protected from bad folk in real life and on the internet. Why is it that elderly people have nobody caring for them? People who literally steal all their money when they can hardly understand what they're doing on the internet, when their faculties are going down. It's very problematic. Anyway, but this kid is very smart. Might even be smarter than his parents. His parents wouldn't mind me saying that, so that's okay. Very, 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 very smart kid. Anyway, so I'm very funny, clever, big fan. So I wrote him back at length explaining that, please, let me know a little bit about, precise age, because it matters, even though you might think it wouldn't matter, and the things that you know already in school, etc. And to explain it to him, I included this paragraph. I said, this isn't a judge of your maturity or knowledge, etc. Because, as I told him, obviously, you can write better and understand the world better than most people of any age. But to give an example, I recently explained on my YouTube channel, within these 10 Commandments series, that my videos are more or less for people at least 23 years old. Except if someone is already married or has been out of parental guardian control for 2 years, in which case they can be of any age. Because a 22-year-old genius with 2 PhDs who always lived with his parents is less the proper audience for most of my stuff than a 14-year-old Afghani girl who's been married for 5 years, LOL. And there's a lot of truth to that in a very literal sense. And but nonetheless, he wrote back to me asking what my YouTube channel is. I think he might have a YouTube channel as well. Obviously, different thing. He's a kid. He's 10. But I think he just turned 10. Or he's turning 10 like this month. Anyways, so I didn't know how do I respond precisely, right? In other words, my inclination would be to call my brother and say, hey, do you mind if I, whatever. But really, it's not for him, the YouTube channel. It's just not. Like I explained here and there very clearly, it's not. I am here to overturn the money tables. I am here to overturn the world. I am here to fix all the easy things that there are to fix. Not on my own. I can't do it on my own. I really need you. I really need you. So it's not for someone who is part of his world, which is a whole different world than the world of people who are free, independent adults. So it would not be nice to him or to me, the sort of perspective that we have in the world, the sort of perspective of popular culture in the world, of be afraid of everybody, stranger danger, oh my God, right? Never talk. That's evil. That's plain out evil, and it makes people evil. If you treat people as evil, they will be evil. The reason that I'm alive, after I've almost been traded to ISIS, at the actual border, almost been traded to ISIS. Literally a half-hour drive from the capital of ISIS at the time, Raqqa, while al-Baghdadi was still alive. I've been in situations I don't fear living life as freely as I can. I've been in unbelievable, incredible situations all over the world. And I'm alive because I presume the best in people. Every once in a while I've been wrong. But for the most part, even people who have done terrible things, the fact that I presume the best in them, they have acted properly. People want to act well for the most part. Really. So I'm definitely not going to try to perpetuate that by, or alternatively to insult him by not giving him the email address, or not my email address, by the YouTube channel. But what I can do is I can explain to him why it's not exactly for him by doing again this kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, which I'll put right here now on the screen, right, like there. That 2,000-year-old version of the Ten Commandments, literally 2,000 years old, literally. And it's if you read Hebrew, it's in the third column, so that's right to left. In the third, well, actually this might be backwards, so whatever, right to left. It's in the third column, and the seventh line in the middle of the seventh line. So, Binyamin, this is for you. I'm giving you my YouTube address, but I really, really do believe, I truly do believe, for my sake and for yours, that you should follow what your parents say. And really, ask your folks if you should be watching my YouTube channel or not. I'm telling you that it's not real. I don't know you well enough to say whether it's okay for you to see it or not. Probably it's okay. But like I said, trust your parents, even though your parents could be wrong. I know them well, and they're younger than me. They definitely could be wrong. I could be wrong, etc. But nonetheless, here's why. So, Binyamin, how's it going? Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha. By the way, pretty cool, from the Dead Sea Scrolls over there, right? You see it in the middle of the seventh line? Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha. Hold heavy. That's what kabed means, literally. Don't take lightly. Your father or your mother, as you can see in the first part of this video, they're separated, and accentuated, which is very interesting. Because with the case of the ben sorer more, that is a child that is executed by the courts, right? The next one we're going to be doing, and Binyamin, not you, if your parents, whatever, I trust your judgment well enough, But I'm saying, ask your folks. The next one, don't murder, is going to be problematic because the Bible's full of people who are supposed to be killed. But the person who is a youth, the ben sorer more, who is killed, it says there that his father and mother have to come with one voice. It only works if they get along. In other words, you do not execute the child if he can't listen to his father and mother because they have two different voices. If his father and mother have two different voices, what do you want from the kid? Which I think applies to all of us and all of our children today. We don't really have, which is, you'll see when we get to the seventh commandment, which shall not be named in this video, that our world today is very far from understanding how the world of the Bible wants it to be. But in this case, they're accentuated your father and your mother. Like I said, the word es accentuates it before each of them. And therefore, not exactly like the ben sorer more, with that child who does not listen to his father and his mother and does all kinds of bad stuff, and the court kills him, and it's iffy as to whether it ever happened in history. The Talmud says it might never have actually literally happened, and that literally the father and mother have to maybe have the exact same voice, that AI can't even tell the difference between who's who. Whatever. In other words, they went out of their way to say, hey, this doesn't really apply. This is an ideal concept, but, in theory it can apply, but it probably doesn't apply to your situation. Don't go bringing your kids to court to be killed. So over there, definitively, the father and mother have to be in absolute agreement. It can't be one or the other, and it can't be if they're saying different things. But over here, they're kind of separated. You know, many people today are living with just their father or just their mother. And I believe that this would apply as well. And that's why talking to kids, sorry, Benjamin, I forgot that I'm talking to you. I've been giving a general explanation. All right, Benjamin, I'm back to you. I think it applies basically whoever you're living with. In other words, even if you're not literally genetically the child of your mom and dad, you know, and you're not, for the record. You're not, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but you're actually the child of black Chinese people. Yeah, your parents adopted you after the Great Wars, right? I mean, have you ever seen a black Chinese person? You haven't. The Jews killed them all and adopted their kids. That's who you really are. But nonetheless, it applies to you. That's what I'm saying. I think it does apply to the people within whose world you are living, who are taking care of you. So, by the way, black Chinese people, for the record, just very interesting thing. Obama has a brother who is a black Jewish Chinese guy. Not a joke. Barack Obama, he's got like a lot of brothers and sisters all over the place. Couldn't even name them all in his opening speech. Mentioned a few and said all of them. The rest of them. So, yeah, he has a brother whose mom is Jewish, whose father is the same father as Obama's, and who found himself so uncomfortable both living as a half-white guy in Africa or as a half-black guy in the West, especially because his brother was president and didn't agree with his brother and everything. So he moved to China. He lives in China. A black, Jewish, Chinese guy, for reals. And you too. You are the other black, Jewish, Chinese guy, Binyamin. So take heavy your father and your mother. Ka'asher tzivcha Hashem alekecha. Right, I'm saying Hashem because, you know, if you were to hear me say, like, the name, right, as I did earlier in this video, it would be shocking to you because Orthodox Jews don't do that. You know what Avrami's thought would be. Avrami's the other brother, and, you know, great guy, but, you know, there are things to be said that are important here that I'm, you know, if I were to talk more about him, so I won't. But, you know that he'd kind of freak out about it, right? So I don't want to freak you out at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you're living within a certain world. And it's not fair for me to break your confidence in any part of it because I don't have another whole world to give you, you know? So, yeah, so if the people that your parents killed in Chinese Africa, you know, come back alive and take revenge and I adopt you, then that's fine. I can say the four-letter name of God. So, Kasher tzivcha Hashem alekecha, like Hashem, your Elokim, let's just leave it at that, commands you, L'ma'an yarichun yamecha, so that your days be lengthened. U'l'ma'an yitavlach al ha'adama, and so that it be good for you on the earth, which is very interesting because that refers to the generality of the Jews living in Israel, whether you get to keep the land of Israel or not. Basically, if everyone's living in accordance with this and the other commandments, even though each of the commandments are personal, each of these Aseres HaDibros, Aseres HaDvarim really, or 10 Commandments, each of these are very personal, directed to the individual. And yet, in this case specifically, where it's most directed to the individual, because everyone has different parents, right? Me honoring my parents is different than you honoring your parents or anybody else who's listening to this. They have their own parents, and yet it's saying that it's not just for you. It's for the whole land. It's for your whole people. A culture that honors their parents, very much not like really America today, a culture that honors their parents is one that will have things good for them. So that it's good for you on the land, Asher Hashem Elokecha nosein lach, that Hashem, your God, gave to you. So, L'ma'an yitav lach, so that's good for you al adama, and L'ma'an yarichun yamecha. So this one specifically, unlike the others really, this one specifically explains to you that it's good for you. You have a longer day. I know sometimes your parents might tell you to go to sleep. So honoring your father or mother might give you a shorter day. There's a story about Rav Leibel Eger. Rav Leibel, you might have heard of Rabbi Akiva Eger, who we're a little bit related to, kind of, perhaps, on my mother, your father's mother's side. And Rabbi Akiva Eger was a Talmud Chacham, was a Talmudic scholar, and his son Rabbi Shlomo Eger was also a Talmudic scholar, and Rabbi Shlomo's son, Leibel Eger, he became a chassid. Today, there's not that much difference between Hasidim and other people, other, Fafrum to Yidden, other black hat Jews, Litvaks, yeshiva people, except how they dress and perhaps what language they speak. But at the end of the day, their Judaism is really very, very similar, one way or another, which is unfortunate. There should be a diversity of possibilities. But in those days, it really wasn't. It really was very, 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 very different. So Rab Leibel Eger, he used to daven with his talis and tefillin on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. One time he was by his father, and his father, who is, a normal yeshiva guy, right, depending whether there's tachnun or not, you might be too young to know. You know about tachnun, of course, fine. Depending whether there's tachnun or not, depending on how long it is, tachnun, for the record, anyone else watching this, is certain extra stuff in the prayers that are done certain days yes, certain days no, that make it a little longer or shorter. And he was davening. His father said, no, which is Jew language for finish up. And so he finished up and he says, Tata, in my perspective, the Hasidim in general are right. But I learned something special from you today. I learned a lot from you in my youth. But right now, today, I learned something. I learned pshat. I learned an understanding in the pasuk, in the verse, that Lama'an yarichun yamecha. I listened to you. You said, finish up your davening, finish up your prayers, and I taka have a longer day. So I recognize sometimes your parents would tell you to go to sleep. You could taka have a shorter day, right? But it's saying literally you live longer, and it really, really, really is true. I'll tell you an example of. I also want to tell you another Hasidic joke. But you understand I'm being paid for this here, and there's other people listening. They'll be okay with it. I'll make it quick. In those early days when Hasidim and Litvaks were very, very different, Litvak being the yeshiva people, when they were still very, very different, so a lot of Litvaks, they either had trim beards or they were shaving their beards, and the Hasidim, they grew long beards. They were not caught up in trying to look necessarily respectable. So the joke is that a fellow goes to see his brother who's a Chassid, and he says, "You're disgusting, my friend. Trim your, I can see what you had for breakfast this morning." His brother says, "Yeah, what I had for breakfast this morning." He says, "You had eggs? I can see it in your beard." So he says, "Ha! I had eggs yesterday." So, if you come across a chassid who you think might appreciate that joke, feel free to share it. I was in Jordan, in a place called Zelle. Zelle meaning stone, possibly related to the matter of Moses hitting the stone in that location. And Zelle is near where Petra is located, where this beautiful city carved into stone in ancient times. People go there, people go to Jordan, literally, most people who go to Jordan go there just for Petra. Or maybe Petra and Wadi Rum. They go there for the tourist stuff. But I travel very differently. I was planning to go to Petra, of course, but I only had a day there. And the guy at the hotel, and I made sure to stay at the hotel that's actually called Zelle. The guy at the hotel, older fella, probably, late 50s or something. He was so impressive to me that I spent the whole day talking to him and did not yet see Petra. And I am very pleased, without any qualms, I am very pleased with my decision. And there's very interesting stuff I could tell you about that. Like he was trying to prove to me that people, that heaven and hell is real and people can come back alive and whatever else. The story there is very funny, but also pretty messed up. But anyway, this guy, really good man, who was working for a very tiny amount, a few dollars a day he was working. Because he had, I think, 11 daughters, and he started a girls' school, and he would let people enter their kids on credit, saying that they'll pay him in the future. So the whole school went belly up, and he owes money for the rest of his life, and whatever else. But still, an unbelievable human being. So we talked for a very, very long time, and one of the things that I remember very clearly is this guy was telling me about honoring your father and mother. He said that if my father tells me go right, and he cannot explain to me why, or I do not agree, I still do it. My father says go right, I go right. My father says go left, I go left. He is my father, of course. Right? We can't really relate to that as an adult. If why would you necessarily trust your father? And the reason is because in a world where your parents really are the ones raising you, where you don't actually have YouTube, where you don't actually have the internet, where you don't have school, accept a school that your father literally made for you, right? Or that your father's friend made for you, and everyone's living in the same village and your whole life is literally in that world. It's clear that, of course, your parents want what's best for you, and they can see things that you can't, because we all have biases. They can see things that you can't, and they want the best for you. Everyone knows their parents want the best for them. But in this world today, it's very complicated, because your parents really aren't 100% the ones raising you. They don't necessarily know what's the best for you. And they also have their own concerns as well. Raising you is not the totality of who they are, unlike in most places where, to a large degree, it really is. But when I recommend to people, I encounter people all the time. And there are people for whom I have recommended various ways of life, various places to live, various religions to follow, even if I think that some of those beliefs are wrong or silly. Commonly, more commonly than you'd imagine, I run into people who are, well, I mean, I live in a black neighborhood, so obviously I run into lots of African Americans. I live here. But I run into some African Americans who the essence of their soul, because American culture is messed up. American culture is messed up from top to bottom. So the essence of what they really can relate to is hating on whitey. Thank God it's not that often, or I wouldn't still be alive, right? But it's often enough. And that's what they can really relate to. Now, at the end of the day, they're wrong about what they're hating, but they're right to be upset about something. Usually when people are really, really upset about something, they're right about they have a right to be upset. They might be wrong about the details and the causes and stuff. But in any case, people like that, I'm not really going to recommend for them Seventh-day Adventists or Jehovah's Witness or whatever. It depends. I have different go-tos for different people. I recommend for them the Nation of Islam, which I don't know if you know anything about it, but Louis Farrakhan, whom I myself actually went to see and have some incredible stories about. I went there as a rabbi even. But that's 2 days after I went there as a black guy. First I went there as a black guy, then as a rabbi. But they're like officially anyway, like I said, story's funny. They're officially like anti-Semitic and anti-white. Officially. And unfortunately, some of the terrorists who go on killing whitey and stuff, they quote him. But he himself, for his movement, the Nation of Islam, they don't engage in violence. In other words, their religion is, the white people are demons and the Jews are the devils, and sure, that's their religion. But the religion is that it's not for us to do anything about it. We're supposed to live good, clean, nice, fine lives. That's why, whatever. The story about how I went there and the whole story, it would be too wild and take too long for right here. But if you're living, I have found in general that people, we are all herd species. We are herd creatures. We're like sheep, we're like cattle. We move with the masses. We want to belong to the masses. If we believe something different than everyone else, it really bothers us until we can get ourselves to believe like those around us, or at least to be around people who believe like people think they're independent thinkers. They ain't. Very, very, very few and very not often. So being as people are going to be part of some group anyway, one way or the other, and it's better for them to be part of a group, for these people I recommend, and I really do in real life, the Nation of Islam, provided they actually move to Chicago and actually join and go to the actual masjid, the actual mosque, temple, church, whatever they might call it, depending on the day. Because it works better for them, and it makes them better citizens too. Who gives a darn what they officially believe? Makes them better people. So in this case, being as, I mentioned before about how YouTube makes sure not to show my stuff. They don't show my stuff because I take on all the big lies, and there are lots of people benefiting from all the big lies. And their perspective is that in order to keep the world safe and to save everybody from Hitler, because there's a Hitler behind every closet, to save everybody, let's all just make everybody the same. That's why ChatGPT, no matter how many times I ask it a question, like I wanted to know if there have been, if they can point me to any examples of a pygmy from the Ituri forest, those are the very, very small people from the Ituri forest, of a pygmy procreating, having a child together with somebody who is a Caucasian, which means generally white, or Han, generally Oriental, Chinese. We do know of examples of them procreating with black people who are Bantu, but for evolutionary reasons, my interest in ancient history, I wanted to know. And all that ChatGPT would do was just keep giving me speeches. No matter how many times I say I'm an adult and I'm not going to kill anybody. You should know that everybody's really the same. You shouldn't be asking questions like this. Really? Really? It's terrible. It's terrible. But because at the end of the day, independence is not given to people, instead, total control. is what the powers that be tried to enforce. If you were to be really convinced that what I'm saying is about something is really, really right, but hey, are you in 5th grade now? I don't know. But let's say you're in 5th grade. Maybe 4th, depending on age, maybe 6th, right? You're going to be in school for a long time. You don't have the ability right now to make your own money. You don't have the ability right now to have thoughts that are really too radically different than anybody else. Because if you do, you'll be screwed. So if something that I say resonates with you, and I'm impressed with your vocabulary, so if you don't yet know the word resonate, I'm sure you can look it up. If something I'm saying here resonates with you very strongly, that's not a great favor that I'm doing to you. Because the rest of the world, they're simple. You know that. You're smarter than they are. That's a given. You know that. I know that. Anyone who's read your email knows that. It's already difficult to be smarter than average. But if you actually had strong points of view, especially strong points of view where you're within a certain kind of community, that's why I mentioned in the beginning of this thing, Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, it also has to include school to some degree and the whole totality of the system. You know, your parents are choosing what school you go to, how you're raised, etc. So being as I'm not there for you, being as I'm not there living with you, I can't help or create, even if I was living with you, unless you're living with me, and until you're an adult, until you're independent, in which case, you know, we can work out whatever's not clear, whatever's necessarily not useful, right? But otherwise, I'm not doing you any favor. And that's why specifically, as I mentioned to you in the email, and as I mentioned in the series to everybody here, this isn't for most people. I'm a little bit too moral. You know that, like, Bubby, my mother, your grandmother, you know, she tends to worry a little bit too much. You know, her parents were in the Holocaust, and it has an effect on a human being. So I try not to be that way. I try not to be too moralistic, but it's you know, and it's held me back, and it hasn't done good for the world for me to be too moralistic. But I'm still careful, and I'm still concerned, and that's why even before you contacted me, I already told the whole world this isn't necessarily for you. It's not that I'm hiding anything, and that's why I made clear that in theory, if a 6-year-old boy had his parents killed in the Warsaw Ghetto, and somehow he survived on his own for 2 years, then even though a lot of this won't make sense to him, you know, after all, he's living in the past, right? But still, nonetheless, this is more for him than for somebody who still requires not being an independent thinker or independent actor. And for you, to a certain degree, there's a requirement to not be an independent thinker or be an independent actor for your own sake. It's not a moral thing, but for your own sake, because you are still dependent. However, the people you can trust more than anybody else in the world, even though of course they'll make mistakes left, right, and center, would be your parents. And for the record, the movement in the world these days is for parents, and I think your parents are like this as well, to be more buddy-buddy with their kids and like let their kids speak back to them and stuff. You know, I did that when I was a school teacher for a year. It benefited me every day, of course, but in the big scheme of things, it didn't necessarily benefit me. There's major downsides to that. It's certainly not what they taught us. They taught us the principle, you know, that you have to command and control and be in total charge. That disgusts me. I don't want to be in commanding and controlling of total charge of anybody. So it disgusts me to do that, and I didn't do that. But you should, you know, even if your parents are human, even if you can see their humanity, even if they don't make you address them as, you know, my father, my mother, you know, with that level of distance, even if they let you call them by their first names, which I don't think they do, but some parents do. Even so, you should grant them more credibility, first of all, out of appreciation. Obviously, it's not easy to take care of kids. You know, I was taking care of you and Srilly back before Nava was born for a few days, just during the day. And to keep you guys from killing yourselves, from having the TV fall over on you, was a full day job. Just to keep you from having the TV fall on top of you. So raising kids is not that easy. It's not that easy. They deserve a lot of credibility for that, even if they mess up in a million ways. But beyond that, trust. Don't take them lightly. Kabed. Take them heavily. Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha. Take seriously your father and your mother. And even though, like I said, you know, please ask your father and your mother whether you can, should, whatever, watch the videos. I'm not going to double check on you on it. I mean, if I'm talking to your father and it comes up, then I'll mention it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to double check with you on it. But at the same time, that's my choice. If it's up to me, is that you not watch the other videos until you've checked with them. That's what I'm asking you, and I'm giving you the adulthood to be able to make that decision, the responsibility. I'm giving you I'm entrusting you. I mean, I could also be mistaken. It could be that you shouldn't. I'm entrusting you to know. Obviously, like I said, I'm not keeping anything from anybody. I don't keep any. I'm very. Yeah, I don't keep secrets. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I don't tell other people's negative stuff. As anybody can see in these videos, I have a lot of things I could say, and I don't. I really don't. Even when people very much deserve it, I really don't. I'm very careful, I think. Not always, but as much as I can be. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of secrets, certainly not in a situation like this. But I'm saying I trust you, but, probably better if you just, check with them. Your dad knows my channel, whatever, so you can check with them. And that's that for honor thy father and thy mother. Next, lo tirtzach. Don't murder. Seems easy, right? Just don't murder. Not that easy.